Ladies and gentlemen, the independent Trump-picked U.S. attorney fires off subpoenas for grand conspiracy case against president's enemies. Now, if these people committed crimes, and they did almost certainly, hit subscribe, by the way, to this channel. Hit subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel that's in the description and pinned comment for the latest uploads. So we're going to do primarily live streams here. We'll do uploads also, but primarily live streams. We're almost at 300,000 subscribers, and it's because of you. Hit subscribe. We'll do the uploads almost always on H.A. Goodman's other channel. So subscribe there and be there right after this for the upload. Ladies and gentlemen, to my super chat, thank you. This is huge. It's happening. It took 10 years, but it's happening. There's a grand jury now in Florida. These are U.S. attorneys, and by the way, there are prosecutors who are resigning. The entire apparatus that kept Comey and Brennan and Clinton and others from being indicted is no longer there. It has taken a decade. Clinton will get indicted. Hillary Clinton eventually will get indicted, probably within the next 5, 6, 7 months. Maybe sooner. There is a grand jury with over 30 subpoenas now to give testimony, documents pertaining to a widespread effort by a number of people to set up and frame Trump with a Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton and the DNC. They paid FEC fines. Everyone involved with the Steele dossier committed a crime. Okay? It's very similar to Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff, and you'll hear the legal analysis in a second. You'll hear how they're trying to destroy evidence. But Bernie Madoff bought and sold stocks, mutual funds, commodities. He did so in retirement accounts. He was able to have a company, a corporation, paid taxes, did all of this legally. The problem, however, is everything he did that was legal was part of a Ponzi scheme. So when they utilized the dossier, well, that's opposition research. When they funneled it into the U.S. government, well, it was raw intelligence. When they utilized it for an ICA, well, that was just, we didn't know. Each of these things seemingly was legal. It was part of a Ponzi scheme, so to speak, of intel, bureaucrats, government agencies, all leveled against Trump. 18 U.S. Code 371. There are other statutes as well. These are conspiracy statutes that everyone broke. Anyone who touched the Steele dossier will almost certainly be indicted, convicted, almost certainly face prison time for a great many of them. Hit subscribe to this channel. Let's get started.
In his own handwriting, we now know that he was briefed that Hillary Rodham Clinton planned to tie Trump 3 weeks after the briefing. So we got it in his own handwriting.
So that's why when the judge in James Comey's case said, hey, you're indicting first and then investigating later. Well, all of these pieces of evidence, all of these notes, all these emails, they tried to destroy. Let's listen to this again from Lindsey Graham.
Believe that you would get, if you're the FBI director and you get an investigative memo from the CIA that Hillary Clinton is trying to tie her opponent, Donald Trump, to Russia, that wouldn't ring a bell. Now, what do we know now? We now found in a safe in a very remote area in the FBI, James Comey's notes 3 weeks later, dated September the 26th, 2016. In the note, he says, James Brennan, JB, HRC planned to tie Trump. In his own handwriting, we now know that he was briefed that Hillary Rodham Clinton planned to tie Trump.
So he lied numerous times. If that's his handwriting, if that's his notes, then almost certainly, and this, by the way, was in the process, apparently, of being destroyed. They tried to destroy evidence. And now Kash Patel and John Radcliffe, Tulsi Gabbard, have unearthed and discovered all of this evidence. Of course they knew. That's the thing with all of this. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to think that one of the most powerful people in the country, the FBI director or the CIA chief, didn't know something as absurd and silly and sophomoric and simple to understand as a dossier. Do you think they just gave it to Trump or gave it to agents without knowing where it came from? Why would they do that? They knew exactly that it was Hillary Clinton and the DNC that purchased the dossier. They, of course, knew this. And that's a criminal act.
3 weeks after the briefing. So we got it in his own handwriting.
So let's go through that. Let's show the handwritten notes dated September 2016 by James Comey, indicating he was aware of intelligence that Hillary Clinton planned to tie Donald Trump to.
The penmanship is atrocious, but so is, mine, and that really doesn't matter. But the point is, HRC planned to tie Trump. That's Comey's notes, and that it contradicts everything he said. That is the antithesis of everything that he said under oath. That's the antithesis of everything Brennan said, and almost certainly what Hillary said during the Durham probe. So there are two different statutes that are being used. One is the low-hanging fruit of perjury, which they all committed. But the other one, that'll take place 3, 4, 5 months from now or sooner. That's in Florida. That Bloomberg, The Independent, CNN, everyone, if you watch this channel, there's a grand jury now looking at conspiracy statutes for 10 to 20 to 30 people. And all of the people that were relevant in 2016, 2017, 2018, they're going to be indicted because the conspiracy, there's no statute of limitations for this type of conspiracy. It only ends when people stop conspiring, and they're still lying about Trump-Russia. Let's continue.
Trump-Russia. It reads, HRC or Hillary Clinton plan to tie Trump. This is about prosecutors substantiating the federal charge of lying to Congress and obstruction. It's about establishing a pattern of him lying about this in his recollections and his testimony to Congress. Go ahead, Congressman.
That's exactly right. And every day we're learning more about what was going on. We're learning more about how deep this weaponization, how deep this corruption was under Biden, under President Obama, and they ought to be held accountable. That's all that's happening here. All that's happening is accountability for people at the highest levels of government who weaponized the federal government against their political enemies, and they ought to be held accountable for it.
Yeah, the operative word is he used the word plan. So he knew about the plan. Yep. He knew about the plan ahead of time. That's what's key here. Congress.
So why has it been taking so long? Why has it taken so long to find this evidence? Well, because they tried to destroy it. Okay, the apparatus that has protected people who set up and framed Trump, it's slowly crumbling. There's really no more. It's still there. People are resigning. Oh, but nobody resigned when they were trying with 90+ indictments against. Where were the resignations in New York when they try to convict Trump of something that wasn't a crime that will be overturned by the Supreme Court, by the way? The hush money payment. Where were the prosecutors in New York City that resigned in protest? Where were the prosecutors in D.C. that resigned in protest? How come everybody resigns when Trump holds people accountable for breaking the law, actually breaking the law? Nothing Trump did was breaking the law. He was a president with the power to declassify. Clinton and Biden didn't have those powers. So the congressional library that went after him, they had no right to go after him. He was a president. And then the journalism is like, well, prosecutors found intent with Trump. They didn't find intent with Clinton. He was a president with the power to declassify. Clinton had servers with top secret intelligence illegally transferred onto them. It's impossible from a cybersecurity perspective to transfer top secret intelligence onto servers. And Biden had classified data in his garage as senator, again, without the power to declassify. And he might have classified data at a university, again, without the power to declassify. There's so many. We can go on forever.
More. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, former FBI special agent, Fox News contributor Nicole Parker. Nicole, burn bags, not a common term that the average person may know. You're very familiar with it because of your time in the FBI.
That's right. So first of all, I'm not shocked by anything that we're hearing, having worked there for over a dozen years. Absolutely nothing shocks me about what may have happened at the FBI. That's one of the reasons that I left. But when I hear burn bag, that's common lingo inside the FBI. All documentation, documents, anything that you basically use or touch at the FBI goes into a burn bag. And sometimes you shred the documents, sometimes you just put them straight into the burn bag. But those documents are literally escorted to an incinerator by armed agents. I mean, it's a very serious process because we must take our documentation very seriously at the FBI, and that is what they do. And so to hear that documentation was found at FBI headquarters in burn bags that were never taken to an incinerator is baffling, but at the same time, it's not baffling.
They were very likely. So the things that weren't destroyed could be that people didn't want to be implicated with Comey or Brennan. You know, it's interesting. There's a phrase in every religion, okay? It's a phrase that can be summarized, and almost every religion has this type of phrase. Only God is God. There's only God is God. And when people try to play God, when you have intel chiefs that try to alter the trajectory of U.S. history, they tried to alter American history with the help of media, with the help of a political party, Democrats, that were scorned. They wanted retribution when they lost, and they went after Trump. Now Trump is going after the people who actually committed crimes. Not once did Trump commit a crime. We know this because every single time they kicked him off the ballot, unanimous Supreme Court win. Supreme Court backs Trump over federal courts 93% of the time. The fine in New York, $500 million thrown out. Tell me what he did wrong. We can go a list of what Clinton and Brennan and Comey and others did. And they're finally being indicted. And so with Trump, they never treated him as a president. They treated him as a criminal who happened to be elected. They made up crimes with a dossier. They literally just made up crimes. Oh, he can't speak to people around the country. He tried to overturn results. Like, no, he didn't think that he lost to mashed potato brains. And Democrats kicked out Biden, right? They wouldn't even let Biden run in 24. So anyway, the point is they actually did commit crimes and they tried to destroy evidence. That's the issue here. And they're not going to be able to destroy enough evidence because the NSA and CIA, they probably have everything that anyone writes at the FBI. Anyway, let's continue.
John, and there are a number of reasons that could have occurred. I wouldn't be shocked if it was just someone that wasn't doing their job, or someone that just put him in a room and thought, you know what, someone else will deal with that. Or if it was someone who is, high level in the FBI and isn't actually familiar with what the rank and file agents do in taking things to the incinerator to have burned. There are a number of reasons that this could have occurred, but the key is that these documents were found.
Let's talk about this, Greg Jarrett. We spent 3 long years unpeeling every layer of the onion on this story. Seems kind of sloppy that if they had incriminating materials, which is what I'm assuming here they found in these burn bags, that they didn't take care of those and eliminate that. And I bet that's causing a lot of agita and anxiety in the minds of a number of names that would be very familiar to this audience.
Yeah, it could be somebody who didn't want to be the party to a crime by burning them, because
there are likely so many whistleblowers. We already know public record of numerous whistleblowers against Schiff, against Brennan and others. But there are probably so many people who are like, yeah, I'm not going to get indicted. Even people who helped. There are probably people who helped Comey and McCabe and all of these, and Brennan and Clinton, who are like, yeah, I'm not gonna get indicted and convicted, because they're all going to turn on each other. They're all going to say President Obama told them, and then President Obama is almost certainly helping Trump and Ratcliffe and Kash Patel. Almost certainly, this is a speculation on my part. He gets complete control of the Democratic Party, but he circumvents potential criminal liability. So almost certainly President Obama is helping President Trump. And they're also part of... See, President Obama does not want his legacy tarnished by Brennan and Comey and all of these people who sell books. And I mean, who's reading Comey's book or Brennan's book and say, God, what a good person? Maybe there's a number of people, possibly. But I mean, I can't imagine a person reading that and suspending logic and saying, oh, wow, what they did was great. The Russians wanted Trump. It's like, no, so did Clinton's campaign. It's within their own emails. Then they changed the story up. They wanted to elevate Trump. Then they said Russia wanted to elevate Trump. So their story changes all the time, but the propaganda is so passionate, full of emotion. Democrats run on emotion. That's why Hollywood is embedded within the Democratic Party. And that's why both are sinking now.
Attempting to destroy or conceal evidence is the crime of obstruction of justice, Sean, if it's done to hide documents relevant to a criminal or congressional investigation or in anticipation of one. So these documents are not just relevant, they may be pivotal. So that's point number one on.
So it's taken 10 years just to find one note from Comey, HRC plan to tie Trump. Of course, any FBI director would know. Any CIA director would know. Anyone would know. If the average person with a functioning brain cell knew that the whole thing was nonsense. In 2016, everyone knew that it was absurd nonsense. It was they were finding a scapegoat because their political party was so full of corruption. And from 2000 to 2008, the Republicans under Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld were the most corrupt, let's say. I mean, you had Democrats right there. But let's say the Republicans were the most corrupt. From 2008 until 2016, actually from probably, from 2012 until today, you have the Democrats that were by far the most corrupt. So the pendulum has swung in terms of corruption. And this is something that never happened before. The entire American government went after an incoming candidate. That never happened before in U.S. history. There was usually a peaceful transfer of power. They tried to make that day in January, oh my God, Trump. No. What happened is President Obama is almost certainly helping President Trump because his legacy is tarnished by Brennan and Clinton and others. He doesn't want anything to do. He wants Obama and Trump have different reasons for why they would both want Clinton indicted.
On obstruction. Point number two is Senator Charles Grassley has been investigating the collusion hoax and those behind it for years, which is why these burn bag documents were turned over to him. So the question becomes, who ordered the planned burning? Why did they do it? Although the why to me seems readily self-evident. Whoever was involved was trying to conceal evidence that they didn't like, things that might implicate them. And it doesn't matter if the material was classified, you still cannot destroy it if it relates to an investigation. Go ahead.
One of the documents FBI officials allegedly found in the burn bag were the classified annex, to a former special counsel.
And I'll say this about the ideology of Mamdani or Bernie Sanders. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, long time ago. It's embarrassing for both Bernie Sanders supporters and myself. Believe me, I'm embarrassed as well. And the issue is a lot of people on the left and the right, they say, well, the 1%, the billionaires are at fault. But there's always going to be wealthy, no matter what society. You can go back in ancient Greece, Rome. It doesn't really matter. You're always going to have very, very wealthy people. The issue here is that one political party went after an innocent man. Trump was innocent. Ain't got nothing to do with billionaires or, moguls, industry moguls. It was a political party that utilized government workers, government employees, people who worked for the government. John Brennan, James Comey. They're not billionaires. They're wealthy, but they're not billionaires. They went after and set up and framed Trump at the behest of Clinton. Clinton didn't write a memo telling him, hey, do this. But everyone walked in lockstep. Even the absurd cover-up with the Clinton email probe, that too was a cover-up, and then he wrote the Comey letter and then tanked her campaign. But again, even in his own notes, his emails, Comey said, President-elect Clinton will thank me for something along those lines pertaining to something that he was doing. But the point is, one political party was far more corrupt than the other. Like in the beginning of the 2000s, it was Republicans. Now for the past 10 plus years, it's Democrats. And everyone who committed crimes is going to get indicted.
Counsel John Durham's final report, which includes the underlying intelligence that he reviewed. Why would that be so critical? To me, that's critical.
Because it likely reveals many of the government actors who instigated and corruptly spread the phony collusion narrative despite knowing it was totally untrue. So, it's the usual suspects. Was it Comey and his acolytes at the FBI, Brennan's team of CIA partisans? Was it Clapper, the Obama White House? They're all reasonable suspects based on the damning evidence revealed in just the last couple of weeks, leading to an official criminal investigation. And, in my two books, I identified all the people who appear to have lied under oath, committed crimes. So it doesn't surprise me that incriminating evidence of lies and lying people was slated for the incinerator. There was never a Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy, but there was a conspiracy to frame Donald Trump.
So now everyone involved, it's like we haven't surpassed 2016. I'm a hologram of 2016, by the way. I'm a hologram of. I'm like Princess Leia in Star Wars. Help us, Obi-Wan. You're our only hope. It's like we are all still living in 2016. I don't think most Americans understand that.
Get this, a federal grand jury has subpoenaed 3 high-ranking Obama-era officials because, of course, when you're a communist, spying on your enemies and having secret police is all part of the deal. And so the Justice Department is now, under Donald Trump, investigating, and they have the Trump-Russia probe.
Sources telling Fox News more subpoenas are on the way. Chinley Painter here with the latest details. Good morning, Chinley.
Hey, guys. So law enforcement sources to Fox News Digital say that up to 30 subpoenas related to the probe will be issued in the coming days. It's all part of the Justice Department's investigation into the origin.
So we already had Strzok and Page's text messages. We'll stop Trump. And then, of course, media came to bat, said, no, they didn't mean an insurance. They said, well, we have an insurance policy with McCabe. No, they weren't talking about an insurance policy. It was something else. It was about something to do with an office. And, we'll stop Trump. Well, they didn't really mean that. Could you imagine if Kash Patel texted an employee at the FBI, we'll stop Mamdani? It would be in the New York Times every day. There would be investigative journalism, but of course we'll stop Trump and no problem.
Of the Trump-Russia probe. We know a federal grand jury has subpoenaed former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. The Brennan investigation came after CIA Director John Ratcliffe this summer declassified a new lessons learned review that determined the CIA, FBI, and National Security Agency's Intelligence Community Assessment, or the ICA, examining Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election deviated from intelligence standards that led to some, quote, procedural anomalies. And records also declassified further revealed that Brennan pushed for this Steele dossier, a discredited anti-Trump document, to be included in that 2017 ICA, even though he testified differently to the House Judiciary Committee in May 2023. Here is Brennan.
In May 2023, which is either the Durham probe or no, it was about the 51 intel officials. So there's so many lies, and it's like, okay, then the intel official, the lies about Hunter's laptop came into play, and then, caused the perjury trap. But the conspiracy statutes, everyone for the past 10 years that had anything to do with setting up Trump and the Steele dossier will be indicted.
Commenting in July about the FBI criminal investigation.
I'm really shocked that, individuals who are willing to sacrifice their reputations, their credibility, their decency to continue to do Donald Trump's bidding on.
Decency. Set up and frame Trump with the dossier. Accuse him of being a Russian operative without a shred of evidence. This most absurd, only an imbecile would believe this. We have the most unintelligent intelligentsia. Our intelligentsia in our country is composed of a bunch of very educated, highly intelligent imbeciles.
On something that clearly is just politically based.
As far as Strzok and Page, they first came under scrutiny in 2018 when the Justice Department uncovered a series of anti-Trump text.
And then one of the text messages between both of them was, "We'll stop. He won't become president, right? Right? Well, we'll stop Trump. We'll stop him." And of course, media is no problem. Could you imagine if pro-Trump FBI agents said, "We'll stop Clinton"? You would have 50 Pulitzer Prizes. Investigative journalists at the New York Times and Washington Post would, oh my God, they would never stop. Why did you say that? What does that mean, stop Trump? Okay, we have to have a criminal probe. But of course, it happened with Trump. And if Trump had treated them in the manner that he was treated, they would never stand for it. And now Trump is not Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, oh, thank you. I was cheated. Fantastic. Wonderful. Oh, now Biden, you have to play ball. They cheated me in 2016, and then they want you to bow out of the 2024 presidency. Go ahead and just say you'll step down, even though you won your primary and they cheated me from actually winning. Thank you again, Debbie. That was very nice of you. But see, Trump, he don't play like that. That's not Donald Trump. Trump is like a pit bull. He's like an orange pit bull.
Messages between them. Both were assigned to work on special counsel Robert Mueller's team in 2017. And Strzok, he's the FBI agent who in July 2016 opened the FBI's initial Russia investigation. Guys?
All right. Chanley, thank you very much. And, it's so important to keep in mind that the biggest fracture of the, we talk about constitutional crises, the biggest fracture, I think, in our lifetime was when the Obama administration decided at the height of a presidential campaign that they were going to launch a federal investigation into the campaign, into their opponent, their leading opponent. And everything that has happened since then is downstream from that decision. And it was a decision made in the Oval Office by Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and all of those characters.
Yeah. And it had such a pernicious effect because then January 6th came and they thought, oh, now we've got this new January 6th. Oh, and then they tapped into the phones of over 160 members of Congress. We're looking at Operation Arctic Frost, and they're trying to dig into that as well. But you're right, this weaponization of government.
And you had lifelong friends disown other friends because they committed the sin of voting for Trump. Oh, I can't be your friend anymore. You voted Trump or whatever. And it's like, well, we had 4 years of Biden. Prices increased 20+%, 22%. Russia invaded under Biden. I guess they weren't afraid of Democrats. Strategic petroleum reserves. There goes the Green New Deal, flooded into the interest rates. You have people talking about affordability today, and that's true. But with 4 years of Biden, Trump has to, we're still dealing with 4 years of Biden, and the tariffs are going to bring back manufacturing. That's the point. The same Democrats who want Mamdani don't get it that the tariffs bring back manufacturing jobs. Outsourcing is what has caused so much poverty in the working class. And people love the working class. You voted Mamdani, love the working class. Why do you think the working class is suffering so much? Oh, maybe because all of the jobs in manufacturing and other industries have been outsourced. And so you want to bring back those jobs. And part of the tariffs is economic leverage, is foreign policy leverage. It's not just a tax, not like an income tax, although you could say, okay, it raises prices, but it's a short-term leverage to bring manufacturing jobs back, for example, and ensure equitable trade deals. It's leverage on the world stage. We're not going to be the number one power for long. India and China will surpass us in 25 years. We won't have another moment in world history where we can actually utilize tariffs to ensure we get manufacturing back or other jobs back that aren't outsourced. So the way the Democrats work is, anything Trump says breathe air, eat, exercise. No, bad. No. The Russians want you to do that. And so he said tariffs, they ran, Obama and Bernie Sanders and others ran on bringing back jobs from outsourcing. And so, but this is another, I'm going on a whole other tangent. The point is, Trump don't play, and we had to deal with Biden, and the same people who were like, oh, I can't be your friend anymore, you voted Trump. We had Biden for 4 years. Why did Trump win in a landslide? Oh, that's right, because even Democrats themselves kicked Biden out of office. So there are people who disown friends and family, and even the Democrats kicked out their own candidate for president after he won his own primary. That's how corrupt they were. It's unbelievable. But see, again, they're cool with that. When George Clooney writes it, like AI, wonderful, morally superior, liberal AI robots, well, he has to stop down. He had a bad debate, and Clooney's right. And then, but they still don't realize, hey, why did you get into it with a friend or family member and ruin a friendship? All because of Trump? Because you lost politically? Are you kidding? We had 4 years of Biden, and Trump won in a landslide. What does that say about your political side? Stinks. But again, it's like, they're going to win on a state level. Sure, Virginia and Mamdani, nationwide, especially with the segment we did prior, if they make sure that ballots are cast or counted on election day, it's game over. They'll never win. They won't win for another generation, at least for 8 years. A national election. Anyway, let's continue.
This very communist idea of I'm going to use intel agencies that are meant to capture terrorists to go after my own political opponents. And I'm going to use the government to take down a president who was duly elected and concoct this whole Russia collusion thing, which, by the way, also had really weird implications on our foreign policy, because all of a sudden the president couldn't deal with Russia in any normal way because he was being accused of having won because of Russia. This thing was so toxic, and it all starts with Obama. When you look at Mamdani winning here in New York City as a communist, don't think about Mamdani. Think about Obama.
And that's why Obama will want to help Trump. They both have reasons. President Obama wants Clinton indicted even more than Trump, almost certainly, for the reasons that were just stated right now. Incidentally, if Mamdani is a proud socialist, then what is the when you have socialists bristle at calling him a communist? I actually don't understand. The leap from socialism to communism is not that great of a leap. So why bristle? I don't really. I mean, I'm kind of being facetious, but not really. Let's continue.
Strike force named last week to investigate evidence disclosed about the Russia collusion hoax, with a look at next legal steps as we continue to search for accountability for the biggest political scandal of our time. And after a bombshell.
That and the auto pen and Clinton servers and then Hunter's laptop. It's pretty much, it's the greatest hits of Democrats the past 10 years.
A week with DNI Tulsi Gabbard disclosing something this audience has suspected for a long time, that President Barack Obama may have been pulling the strings after Trump won.
And he wants his legacy protected, which is why he's almost certainly helping Trump indict a whole bunch of people.
The November 2016 election, pushing a plan to muddy up the incoming president's name and handicap his new administration with a phony story about Russia. This past week, DNA Gabbard sent criminal referrals to the Department of Justice, and the DOJ announced the formation of that strike force to evaluate the evidence presented. Coming up, the timeline to destroying Trump's reputation with the two men who saw it coming from day one, while exposing the Russia collusion with Trump made-up fantasy concocted by Hillary Clinton and her 2016 presidential campaign. CIA Director John Ratcliffe and Trump Media and Telecom CEO Devin Nunes are here. Just days after Director of National Intelligence Gabbard declassified the House Intelligence Committee report prepared in 2020 based on then Congressman Nunes' investigation that the intelligence community did not have any direct information.
Not only did they have any evidence, the whole thing was completely absurd. Hit subscribe if you're new. Why on earth would Putin want Trump? When Hillary had servers with top secret intel on them, wouldn't any adversary want that kind of classified intelligence on private servers? She has servers almost certainly because of Clinton Foundation donors or Democratic donors or other things in which she wants to hide. This isn't rocket science. That's why you would have servers. If Trump had private servers, they would be saying that he was writing love letters to Putin and selling the planet to Martians. Oh my God. And they would be like, it's true. It's true. He's selling the planet to Martians. He's doing it. And oh my God, the op-eds in the Washington Post, it's really bad. Could you imagine that somebody would try to sell the planet to Martians? Only Trump would do this. And people would believe it. And there would be placards, no selling the planet to Martians, no king selling the planet to Martians. And it's just like, it takes 3 weeks for them to key Teslas. You don't think it would take 3 weeks for them to believe that Trump was actually found extraterrestrials and selling the planet to Martians? That's just as plausible as Putin wanting Trump. Why would Putin want Trump? They invaded under Bush. They invaded under Obama, Crimea. They invaded under Biden. No major invasion under Trump. And with secret servers with Clinton, it's like, why wouldn't they want Democrats? That's actually the real issue. And then, of course, Clinton wanted Trump to elevate Trump in her own emails, the campaign emails. But anyway, let's continue.
Or evidence that Russian President Putin wanted to help elect Donald Trump in 2016. Despite the assessment repeatedly listed in the daily presidential briefing, then President Obama ordered a new report which completely contradicted the original assessment. Here's Deanna Itelsey with me here exclusively last Sunday.
The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe will join me shortly. But first, a flashback to 2018 with me here 7 years ago.
It's very troubling. Again, all of this ties in. It's not just Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, Maria. What's important and significant about what Devin Nunes told you earlier is more than 70 witnesses appeared before the House Intelligence Committee. All of them were asked the same question. What evidence do you have of Russian collusion with Donald Trump or the Trump campaign? What evidence do you have of conspiracy? What evidence do you have of coordination? And they batted 1,000 in their response. These are folks like Susan Rice and Samantha Power, senior DOJ and department officials and intelligence and law enforcement officials, and they all said, we don't have any. So what we have known and what I want the public to see from these transcripts is that our law enforcement and intelligence communities have known for a while that there isn't evidence of Russian collusion with Donald Trump or the Trump campaign. And the sooner the public finds that out, the better off we'll all be.
Watch what magnesium does to your bowel.
Joining me right now, back 7 years later in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive, is the current director of the CIA, once again, John Ratcliffe.
Oh, the Democrats love the intel community. Oh, the intel community assessment. Oh, Brennan, Comey, higher loyalty. Oh, they're such good people. And now they're not as suddenly Ratcliffe and Kash Patel are not as popular among Democrats. Yeah, I wonder why. Wonder why. Why do they love, and just like when they loved federal law enforcement, but now they don't like law enforcement with ICE, but they loved law enforcement in January, but they don't like it anymore. So they loved intel, now they don't like intel. They loved federal law enforcement before, they don't like federal law enforcement. They love Teslas, they don't like Teslas now, or they kind of like them now because maybe Musk and Trump are on the rocks. So it's like programming an AI robot. It's 3 weeks, so they loved Biden, he's the best. He needs to step down. George Clooney said to step down. It takes 3 weeks of media coverage for wonderful, highly educated, morally superior Democrats to believe anything. Oh, no, Bernie wasn't cheated. He wasn't. Oh, the WikiLeaks, Guardian, New York Times, Washington Post emails said, that proved that he was cheated. Russia! It was the Russians? The Russians? They wrote the emails? No. They were smarter than writing the emails. The Democrats wrote the emails that cheated Bernie Sanders and wanted to elevate Trump. What really happened was that the Russians wanted you to know. Look how diabolical they are. They wanted you to know how corrupt Democrats are, thus moving you towards Trump. Really? That's why I voted Trump in 2016? Yeah, because the Russians informed you of how utterly corrupt Democrats were. Oh my God. They interfered and colluded and meddled.
Director, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Great to see you, Maria. Great to be back with you.
And thank you for all of your truth-telling over the years. We will speak with Devin Nunes, who opened this up wide so many years ago. But I want to get your reaction to what we're seeing now with Tulsi Gabbard highlighting the truth here, as you have done so many years ago.
Well, Maria, before the intelligence community assessment that D.N.I. Gabbard was talking about, and before Devin Nunes' report about that intelligence community assessment, before the Mueller investigation, before Crossfire Hurricane, there was this. In the summer of 2016, U.S. intelligence intercepted Russian intelligence talking about a Hillary Clinton plan to falsely accuse Donald Trump of Russia collusion, to vilify him and smear him with what would become known infamously as the Steele dossier.
Everyone involved in the Steele dossier committed a crime almost certainly. Okay, the rebuttal is, no, the Steele dossier was perfectly normal. It was just opposition research. That's like saying Bernie Madoff simply bought and sold stocks legally. Bernie Madoff had retirement accounts of individuals legally. They signed documents that said that he could buy and sell stocks. It gave them fiduciary ability to buy and sell stocks in retirement accounts. Everything he did was legal. But it was a Ponzi scheme. It was a multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme where retirement people lost their entire retirement account savings. Okay, same thing here. The rebuttal is that, well, there was just an FEC fine. It was totally above board. You can purchase the Steele dossier. Yeah, but the whole point was it was part of a conspiracy. You don't need a memo. You don't need everyone to sign, we, loyalists of the Clintons and Democrats, hereby promise to set up and frame Trump with a stupid Russia hoax and myth. Signed Brennan, Comey, and everybody. That's not how these things work. They all were in cahoots, but not formally. They all had jobs to do, just like Bernie Madoff, buying and selling stocks. In aggregate, the bird's eye view is an overtly criminal endeavor.
And Maria, this intelligence was so explosive that John Brennan briefed President Obama, Vice President Biden, Jim Clapper, James Comey, the entire national security team, telling them about this Hillary Clinton plan. Again, but think about this, Maria. That was in August of 2016, and yet it wasn't until more than 4 years later, in October of 2020, when I found, after an exhaustive search, John Brennan's handwritten notes and the underlying intelligence behind it that revealed exactly what happened. So for a 4-year period of time, the truth about the origins of the Russia collusion hoax was hidden from the American people. And unfortunately, Maria...
And yet another handwritten note. Okay, so they're all writing notes. I mean, you can go and you can look. This is Comey's handwritten note. Okay. And this is Brennan's. So they're all writing notes. Okay? And it's all contradicting. So when they're on trial for the conspiracy statutes, and well, we never knew. Well, here are your notes. Wow, that was about fantasy football. What you knew about what we were doing? Nah, it wasn't. Because guess what? They have all the other notes you probably wrote, and they have all the emails that you wrote. And so that's why they can't type an email without, a catastrophe.
Maria, as you recall, those same people were already at that point in time onto their next hoax, the Hunter Biden laptop. This was a month before the 2020 election. And unfortunately, what we saw with Joe Biden's election was another 4 years to be able to continue to bury the truth. And so it's only now, with Donald Trump having been reelected, that through DNI Gabbard, myself, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, all of this intelligence, all of this evidence that's been hidden and buried from the American people is finally coming to light.
Yeah. We just showed a picture of John Brennan's notes, and I want to go back to those because you just referenced them. These are handwritten notes that John Brennan took during that meeting with Obama and the other top lieutenants.
So you have Brennan's handwritten notes, like I said, and then you have very similar handwriting. It's very interesting. Look at that. Let's see here. I don't know how important or, how accurate handwriting analysis is, but let's see here. Are they similar? Huh. You can barely you can barely read their writing. Brennan, you could kind of read more than Comey. Okay, let's continue.
Where he writes that Russia is aware of the Hillary Clinton plan to tie Donald Trump to a Russia story. And these notes is something that you highlighted many times, that Devin Nunes highlighted many times. Is this what you're saying was hidden, these handwritten notes and the obvious story right then and there in the meeting with President Obama, where John Brennan was writing notes down as far as what he was telling and discussing with that team?
Well, think about it, Maria. During that 4-year period of time, think about the countless interviews that Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Jim Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan gave to the public, and testimony that they gave under oath about how Russia was involved in our election. And not one time, not a single time, did they ever reference what became verified intelligence, a Hillary Clinton plan. Verified, Maria, because in 2020, Hillary Clinton's own campaign manager took the oath under penalty of perjury in the trial of Michael Sussman and was asked about this plan and said, yes, there was a plan, and Hillary Clinton personally approved it.
And that's why John Durham deserves the Presidential Medal of Freedom, because what he did for this country, what he did to ensure that conspiracy statutes eventually will be leveled against people who committed crimes. John Durham compiled evidence at a moment in U.S. history where all the smartest people in the room never thought Trump would get back to the Oval Office. And John Durham compiled, with his special counsel, all the evidence that showed an actual conspiracy. And media and Democrats roll their eyes. Oh, yeah, but it's like if they were the ones who were accused of being Russian operatives with a dossier purchased by Clinton, by Rudy Giuliani and President Trump. Imagine if Trump and Giuliani purchased a dossier and said Hillary and Harris and Bernie Sanders and Biden were in a Moscow hotel room and enjoyed a certain type of activity. Oh my God. They would never, the indignation would be heard throughout the universe. But the reverse happened. What happened was Trump was the victim of all of this. So they don't care.
So all they did was talk about the fake Steele dossier, but never talked about the true intelligence, the true origins of the Russia collusion hoax was that this was a Hillary Clinton campaign scheme. Yeah. Really incredible. And, Devin Nunes, your next guest, truly an American hero trying to bring these things to light. And again, now we have the opportunity to do exactly that.
Yeah, he sure is a hero, and so are you, Director. Look, our audience knows this, thanks to you and thanks to Devin Nunes. Our audience is well aware of what took place here, but we want to see accountability. Many of the statute of limitations have expired. It's been almost 10 years for many of these folks who did this. But John Brennan testified to Congress, and so did Hillary Clinton, within 5 years. I think it was in 2020, right, and then again in 2021. Are those statute of limitations still live?
So check this out, ladies and gentlemen. There is no statute of limitations issue because everyone involved since 2016, there's no statute of limitations issue for conspiracy. Check it out.
Live, tell me if, in fact, we could see a criminal prosecution here, as you just the other day, 3 weeks ago, have, in fact, referred criminal referrals to the DOJ.
Well, Maria, so part of what came out last week was about how John Brennan, Clapper, Comey, they all pushed the known fake Steele dossier into intelligence community assessments and as the basis for Crossfire Hurricane and all that. But what hasn't come out yet, and what's going to come out, is the underlying intelligence that I have spent the last few months making recommendations about final declassification and sent that to the Department of Justice that will come out in the John Durham report classified annex. And what that intelligence shows, Maria, is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to. And you're right, Maria. John Brennan testified to John Durham in August of 2020. He also testified to the House Oversight Committee in 2022. Hillary Clinton testified before John Durham under oath in 2022. James Comey testified before the Senate committee in September 2020. All of that's within the last 5 years. And much of that testimony is frankly completely inconsistent with what our underlying intelligence that is about to be declassified in the Durham Annex, what that reflects. And so, you know, Pam Bondi does have a strike force. It is a different Department of Justice, a different FBI, and an opportunity to look at how these people really did conspire to run a hoax, a fraud on the American people and against Donald Trump's presidency. And so coming forward, we understand that they did this, but now we need to understand how they did this. And I think that's why you see the left losing their minds over this, Maria, saying, why are you spending time? This is vindictive. You're going back. This is Donald Trump, you know, seeking retribution. It's not. Donald Trump's election by the American people was a statement, Maria. They said to everyone, we know what you did to Donald Trump, and we reelected him because we know this was all fake. We know it was a hoax. Now we want to understand how you did it so that it can't happen again. And that's what this declassification process that we're undergoing right now, what's going on, why it's so important, and why there can be accountability and preventability to prevent these same people that did it in 2016 with the Steele dossier, with the Hunter Biden laptop in 2020 from doing it again in the future.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals, and why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word treason. Is there a statute of limitations on treason?
All right, so check this out. This is important. This is why you need to hit subscribe to this channel. Read my writing on hagoodman.com, or you could type in H.A. Goodman Federalist. Read my writing in the Federalist as well, years back, foreshadowing all of this, ladies and gentlemen. These people conspired, and there's no statute of limitations. Check it out.
Well, Maria, what I would say is this, is
my work is easy because I
my mind that the people that we just talked about conspired. They conspired against President Trump. They conspired against the American people. And so I'll leave it to Pam Bondi and our Department of Justice, Kash Patel and our FBI to investigate the conspiracy to do what and what charges that they're capable of bringing. But again, I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And Maria, part of why this is so important is the people behind this are still furthering the conspiracy.
Let's listen to that again.
Investigate the conspiracy to do what and what charges that they're capable of bringing. But again, I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And Maria, part of why this is so important is the people behind this are still furthering the conspiracy.
So, Independent, Trump picked U.S. Attorney fires off subpoenas for grand jury case against president's enemies. November 10th, 2025, today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's happening. It's happening. It only took 10 years. We're almost to 300,000 subs. Took almost 10 years for me to get to 300,000 subs. So we're almost there. It's because of you. God bless you all. Thank you for watching. If you're new, hit subscribe. If you haven't been here in a while, please continue to watch again. And everything that we've been talking about, everything that I've been saying is taking place. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right this second. It's below in the description and pinned comments. See you tomorrow, everybody. We'll do 2 live streams.